So this is a talk about how we understand abstractions by using concrete representations or models. So abstractions cannot be understood without being translated into concrete form. This is just a simple thing. That so, for example, in algebra we have something which is called the commutative law. X plus y equals y plus x. Now you can understand it directly, but actually this understanding is an illusion. So you get an illusion of understanding and you don't get real understanding until you have any theory. Unless you can translate it to what it means on the ground, then you don't really understand it. And unfortunately, you have a lot of practice in thinking that I understand when you don't really understand, which is a self-deception, because you have been told that understanding means to take a theory and to be able to replicate it on the exam. And so if you understand something well enough to answer questions, then you have understanding, but you actually have an illusion of understanding. So here, if you want to understand the commutative law, it means that 3 plus 2 equals 5 and 2 plus 3 equals 5. Both of these are true. And there is a picture. So there is 2 people, and we add to this 3 people, and now count them, there are 5. Or if we start with 3 people, and then we add 2 people, we count them, that's 5. Now you see how different this is from x plus y equals y plus x. Now when you do this, then you have understood. But you might think that yes, x plus y equals y plus x. What's difficult in that? I already understand. But that is what I am saying, that this is an illusion of understanding. And that is how when illusion of understanding replaces understanding, that's how you are made to believe in theories which have no relation to reality, because you say, oh, I understand this, I understand the ISLM theory, but you have never actually understood how ISLM works in the real world. You have never been told that, okay, go to the government and tell them to print this much money, and then this is what will happen. So that is, unless you know that, then you don't understand what ISLM means. So here is another example. Here is the fractions. 1/2 plus 1/3 equals 5/6. We understand this because we know the rule. We multiply the denominators, you get 5, then you put cross multiply numerator, and etc. But here's how you get real understanding. Here's our pizza with 6 slices. Now 3 of these slices are half of the pizza. We understand that because, you have direct visual understanding. This is half. You see, this is, as opposed to on the right hand side, the numbers, you don't understand those numbers. And this is 1/3, 2 slices out of 6. And you can see that this is 1/3. And so you add the 3 and the 2 and you have 5/6. So this is. Now, one very important thing is that when we have this intuitive understanding, this does not give us the rule for the addition of fractions. Suppose I explain to some suitable child who hasn't seen fractions, he will understand the pizza very easily because he has eaten it. But if I say, okay, now add 3/4 and half for me, he will not be able to do it because he doesn't know how this translates. So the intuition is one side and the technical detail is the other side. And as I have said, I haven't given you the technical detail. So that's one part of the effort that you have to make for yourself. That's the easier part usually, but it has its own complications. So in literature, and we say that there is a very important thing. This is for good writing. If you want to do this, if you want to be a writer, and you have to be a writer if you want to explain things to others, then you show, don't tell. So this was said by Anton Chekhov. Don't say that the moon is shining. Say that there was a glint of light on the broken glass. So this is if you want to say that the man was angry, you say that he stomped his foot and walked out of the room. So now you are showing that he was angry. You're not telling. So this is the difference between concrete representations and abstractions. So if you want to understand abstractions, you have to translate them into concrete terms. So there was a battle between two philosophies. Light comes out from eye and hits the object, and the other philosophy was that the light comes from the object and hits the eye. And for centuries this had been going on, and both people had been spending huge philosophies, just like your macroeconomics textbooks, page after page, that this is the theory and this is. And then Ibn al-Haytham came along and he settled the matter by some empirical observations. So this is the essence of science. Science says that you take the theory and you look at reality. It is not about just looking at reality, because if you have a sequence of historical events, you don't understand them, because unless you go into the driver, the theory is the driver. It explains the reason for the event, it explains the causal sequence, which is something you never discuss in your economics, because everything happens at once. So the causal sequence is crucial. So once you have a causal sequence by itself is just a theory. It has no meaning unless you translate it into practice. Alright, so now I am going to explain some crucial elements of the idea that government injections equal private sector surplus. Now, if I could go through this model and you would understand everything in it, but you would not understand why I am doing it unless you have the theory. So there is this theory and I am trying to illustrate, and what I would like you to do, the group project, is that I am going to take a simple model. I want you to extend this model, put in some complications, and you will understand what to do, and then explore what happens, so that you have some practice in dealing with models, because what you have been told about models is exactly the opposite of the truth about models. You are given models which are completely incomprehensible and you are told to manipulate them. Actually, models are a way of simplifying reality so that you can understand it. The true economy is so complicated we can't understand it. So we make a simple model of it which we can understand, and then we can play with this model, and playing with this model gives us familiarity and confidence about how the model works and improves our understanding. So the task, the exercise for you all for this Monday is also as a group project also to take this simple model that I'll give you and to extend it in some direction, any direction that you like. Alright, so we have this model which I think we have worked with before. There are 10 farmers, they each own 1 acre of land. There are 30 laborers in the village. This is an isolated village in the middle of nowhere. 1 acre plus 1 laborer produces 100 units of corn. It's a traditional, in a traditional economy they would all get together and produce, and they would share equally. So there would be 1,000 units of corn produced, and there are 40 laborers. They would each eat 25 units of corn and everybody would be happy. Let's put the 25 units of corn as a ceiling. Farmers, now we have a market economy, a monetary economy. Things are going to work very differently in a monetary economy. So now we start by paying 100 rupees as wages to hire the laborers. This is one crucial difference from conventional model, that the wages are the marginal product. Actually, this is the two-price system in operation, because at the time you pay the wages, production is going to take place, but the reality, how much production will take place, will be in next period. You don't know who else is hiring, you don't know what the demand conditions will be at that time. So at that time, what the real value of this labor will be, you don't know at this point. So you just pay what is the going price, which is 100 rupees by assumption. So you produce 100 units, you consume 25, and you have 75 units of surplus for the market. So there is a total of 750 units for sale. But how much income was generated in the production process? This was 1,000 rupees total, 100 rupees for each, 10 laborers. So basically, suppose we have an isolated closed economy, then what happens is that this amount for sale, 750, is only available to the only buyers for this are my laborers who have 1,000 rupees. And so either if we have demand and supply, free markets, then the market will clear, and so the price will be such that basically it will be 1 rupee 25 paise, 133, because 750 units will sell at 133 for 1,000. So this will be the price, and the 1,000 laborers will consume 75 units each. But suppose and the farmer, what will the farmer profits be? Farmer profits will be zero. Why? Because no money came into the system. The money at the beginning of the system is the same as the money at the... So this is what I want to show, that the injections lead to profits. Without injections there can be no profits. Money has to come in. Consumption is 1,000. GNP is 1,000, because what is GNP? GNP is the set of all productive transactions which took place. So basically the intermediate transaction, the payment for wages, doesn't count in your GNP. It's the final transaction. So assuming that you sold all 750, then you will have GNP of 1,000 and consumption of 1,000 rupees, and savings is 0 and investment is 0. But now suppose that 25 units is the maximum consumption. Then what happens is that I've made some mistakes here in the calculations because I was working with two sets of figures. These numbers are not right. Okay, so there are 10 laborers. The maximum demand is 250. There's 750 available, so 500 is surplus. Now if this market works by supply and demand, then price will go to 0. And what will happen as a result is that in the next period the farmers are going to cut down on their production, even though that money is needed. Now there are many things that you can do to prevent this from happening. You can say that, okay, let's all of those unemployed laborers be able to borrow money, or maybe they have assets which are already exist, so they can inject the money that is needed to clear the system. So if we give these laborers extra money, then they will be able to buy, their savings will go down, or they can borrow from banks, or there are many things that you can do. But suppose that none of this is possible. Suppose that the unemployed have 0 assets and they cannot borrow. Then one thing that can happen is that the farmers can burn some of their output, and this is something that has been observed. Suppose that because you're going to get 0 from it in supply and demand. So you have 750. If you burn 500 rupees, you just throw that away. Then the 250 you will be able to sell for 1,000. So this is again another very strange and interesting real world phenomena. But after that, next period, you won't go to the trouble of producing extra. But now, this is the main point, the reason I wanted to do this model. Suppose that there is a government, and suppose the government provides unemployment social security benefits. The government doesn't do any production. All it does is it pays the 2,000 rupees to the unemployed laborers. Government has a deficit. It needs to get taxes in the next period to pay it back, according to the famous Ricardian equivalence. So, but now what will happen? These people now got 1,000 rupees. Now there's 2,000 rupees in the market. They will be able to buy all of the product at a reasonable price. The profits of the farmers will be 1,000 rupees, exactly equal to the injections made by the government. And this can repeat every period. The government keeps incurring deficit. The deficit improves the performance of the economy. Everybody is better off. Everybody gets to eat. The farmers make profits. No harm to the laborers. Those people who are dying of hunger, they get to eat. Economy works perfectly well. And the government deficit keeps increasing, but there is no damage to anybody. No taxes needed by the government. This is the main point of the modern monetary theory, which nobody understands. Okay, I think that was clear and understandable. Now, in your own models, there are many other things. You could introduce investment. That's a complicated. So, suppose that next period, you have to plant some corn in order to earn, to make corn. So, some portion of the corn has to be saved for investment. And you can have two technologies, one which is labor intensive and one which is corn intensive. So, there are many things you can do. The point of this is that you should understand the model. The model should be so simple that you understand everything about that model. Once you start with the simple, then you can make it more and more complicated. So I would like to see each group produce an interesting model next week. All right. So I have some more explanation. Okay, I think that's it. Microstructure matters. I have assumed the supply and demand mechanism for the clearing of markets. There are other ways. You can do posted prices, or you can do this monopoly. And in this situation, both of these are plausible, because see, if you post prices and you collude, then you will sell whatever is possible, and the others will remain with you as surplus. Or you can actually have an outside market. You can have injections coming in from exports. You see, you have this village. You can export your corn to the city, where the city there has a fixed price. And so the injections, instead of coming in from the government, they can come in from the... But the key point, I think this model makes very starkly clear that deficits are not harmful, and they are not, they can be extremely helpful.